All right, shalom, everybody. Welcome. Peace be unto everybody. Hopefully, you all are doing well. We got our platforms running right now: YouTube, TikTok, the podcast. We're thankful and grateful for everyone who is on this rising. Thank you very much for being on with us. Grand rising to you, Lee, Morel. Um, I'm sure the insurance of of being in the kingdom and what it brings. We could talk about that type of insurance. Um, and if that's your way of saying hello, then hello. But thank you to everybody who's on with us. And we're grateful for the opportunity to be in front of you all again. We got a lot of noise in the background that's rising. But hey, what's new? We're going to go ahead. We're going to go ahead and get into this word. Um, And thank you to everybody who's joining us. Thank you in advance for the likes, for the shares, for the gifts, for all that different stuff. Thank you for spending some time with us. We appreciate you. Before we go too much further, may the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in Yahweh's sight. He is our strength and our Redeemer. And it's in His name, which is His authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, project, and protect this message. Amen. Thank you for being on with us once again. And trying to get YouTube. I can't seem to get you guys on a level place where you don't look like you're leaning to the side. We'll let it stand as it is. Thank you for joining us. What is today? It's October 13th, right? A week after my born day. Yep, October 13th. So thank you for being on with us and taking some time out on this great day. And let's see, Yad Kaf Lamed. Yad Kaf Lamed Mim. So Mim today, being water or the spirit or the blood even, as far as our number system goes. So we're grateful and thankful for you coming with us. I'm going to try my best to answer as many things as I can. So you guys know how this is already. Those of you who are used to being with us, depending on how many people are going to be on, usually affects how much stuff I can see. We do have a question mark box, and from time to time I will do my best to be faithful to looking down at the question mark box to be able to answer questions that you may have as we go through this stuff. This is going to be a series. We've actually done this series before. However, since the YouTube channel was taken down and we've been building it back up recently, this is going to be something that'd be nice for a little review and also to reestablish on our channel. If you're looking for the YouTube channel, all you got to do is look for hashtag Find Kofi, hashtag FINDKOFI. We give all praise to the Most High for you being here, for him, for my wife, the Honorable Maya, Bloom and Flourish. You can follow her on TikTok, YouTube, and website as far as things she does with tinctures and things to heal our community. That's not A-N-D, but the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. And you can also find her at hashtag Find Bloom. I just grew my hair. I don't even know. I just grew my hair from time to time because I don't want extreme, you know, all the stuff in the background today. I don't want extreme, clasping or whatever. So every once in a while I break it apart, and when you wash it or whatever, break it apart to be able to get through some things. But yeah, that's pretty much. I just kept on growing. Where am I from? My people are from everywhere. I am Shwi. I am. So we talk about Alkebulan, like I'm Shwi. I'm Mali. I'm Central African as far as Sudanese. Kemetic, Omekshi, Taino, Cherokee, if you want to go that route as well. The Shwi part comes from, and the Taino part come mixed together in Jamaica, if you will. I'm from all over the place. If religion, everybody has a religion, that just means the thing that you repetitively do as a legion. That's what the word means. So you religiously brush your teeth, you religiously, drink water, you religiously go for a run. However, if you mean like what is it that my Amen calls itself, or in language like your organization or whatever would call itself, I would say that we are followers of the way. I am not a Christian. I do believe in the Bible, but I'm not a follower of the way. Do I consider myself spiritual? Yes, I consider everybody to be spiritual, whether they go with that or not. However, let's go ahead and get into this on this rising. What we're going to do is we're going to discuss in the Bible we're going to go back to, as we've been talking about, we're going to go to Matthew, and we're going to do the Sermon on the Mount. So that'll be what we'll be in for the next few risings. You know, besides those who will join us for 6:45 a.m. on Mondays, that's what we'll be in as far as our live sessions in the risings on TikTok, and those who will listen on the podcast. Hey, Shalom, Chef. Those who will be watching on YouTube, that's what we'll be talking about for a while. I believe that Yeshua HaMashiach did die for our sins, and we're going to listen to what he has to say on this rising. So the Sermon on the Mount is known as Matthew chapter 5 through 7. Before we get into the Sermon on the Mount, what we're going to actually do is we're going to specifically set up context, because here, remember, we're not about facts, we're not about context, we're about contextual facts. Many people live in context but don't give facts to the context. Many people live in context, never using facts to back up the context. We like to make sure that we have both together. So we're going to go to the Sermon on the Mount, but to do that efficiently, we need to make sure that we go to Matthew chapter 4 and start at verse 23. So that's what we're going to do. And once again, thank you, Minister Tamara, for the reminder. If you have questions, comments, or concerns, feel more than welcome to use the question mark box here on TikTok. I will try my best to pick out comments as much as I can do, but I'm only human. So every once in a while I can go backwards. My wife, the Honorable Maya, is on. Thanks, babe, for being on. I love you so much. Thank you for your presence. It always makes things greater and brings calmness, and you bring reminders and things that we need to remember. So thank you for being on. So I'm coming from the King James Version. We're going to go to Matthew chapter 4. Before we get into Matthew 5, we need to make sure we establish some things, right? So we're going to go to Matthew chapter 4. Okay, that's great. If you know where I live, come on by. We'll see if you know what you're talking about. But Matthew chapter 4, we're going to verses 23 through 25. Matthew chapter 4, verses 23 through 25, all right? And so that's where we're going to be starting on this rising. If you have your Bibles, or if you have a device, or if you're just riding through whatever, just pay attention, because we're going to make sure we go through this word by word, line upon line, precept upon precept, to make sure that we're giving some actual context and reading this correctly. This is something that people consider to be some of the most powerful preaching. Everybody knows certain things that they've heard from this. You've heard things like, why are you concerned about, like the splinter in someone else's eye when you got a big old beam hanging out your eye? You've heard things like, you are the light of the world. You've heard things like the kingdom of heaven belongs to you. You've heard all types of stuff out of this. And the thing about this, though, is we're going to figure out what he's talking about, the system he's bringing when we talk about kingdom, the system. All right, thank you very much for saying it's false information without us even talking about the information yet. It shows that apologetically you need to be a little better. But feel free to stick around to see if your suspicions or what you're preaching or preaching about our preaching that hasn't even started yet, see if what you're saying actually makes sense, all right? So here we go. Matthew chapter 4, verse 23 through 25. And we're going to get started. So here we go, Matthew chapter 4 and verse 23 through 25. It reads as follows. Before we even get into the Sermon on the Mount, let's set up what happens leading up to. Why did Yeshua even use, what was the intent of the Sermon on the Mount, right? Like when somebody preaches something, when somebody speaks something, what is the intent, right? Of Matthias or Matthew or Matthew, etc., right? Before we even get into that, I comprehend, right? We're using terms and we're using stuff so that people can be able to get it. We're going to give culture to it so that people can get it a little deeper. However, I'm not here to just go ahead and make sure that I say, okay, we're going to go to Matthew or Matthias or Mattanai, and we're going to go to Mattanai, Dalit, right? And, we're going to go to Mattanai, Dalit, and make sure that we start somewhere around Tav, right? People don't comprehend what I'm saying. So just be with us, bear with us. Let's go ahead and get into this. It reads as follows. I'm going to read it through, and we're going to go back and study it just a little bit to break it down before we get into Matthew chapter 5, verses 1 through 12, which is where we'll end on this rising, okay? So it says this, it says, and Yeshua went about all Galilee, teaching in their synagogues and preaching the gospel of the kingdom, and healing all manner of sickness and all manner of disease among the people. Verse 24, and his fame went throughout all Syria, and they brought unto him all sick people that they're taken with divers diseases and torments. And if you notice we're saying and a lot, we're going to get into that, why that's even there. And those which were possessed with devils, and those which were lunatic, and those that had the palsy, and he healed them. Verse 25, and there followed him great multitudes of people from Galilee and from the Decapolis and Jerusalem and Judea and beyond Jordan, right? Then we get to the Beatitudes. Now, real quick as we get back to this, Matthew chapter 4, verses 23 to 25, there's something that we must establish, right? You said, I'm not Christian, but I believe in the Bible. Yeah, the Bible predates Christianity. So there are many people who believe in the Bible and believed in it before Christianity existed. That's pretty simple, right? So hopefully I answered that question. Now let's get into this, verse 23 to 25. It says, and Yashua, right, went about all Galilee. And what was he doing there? He was teaching in their synagogues. Now remember, this is right after he went ahead and began to preach what the kingdom of heaven is at hand. That you can go back to Matthew chapter 4, verse 17 to see that. Now, so we're talking about a kingdom, right? We're talking about a kingdom, a system, something that's being established. So he's preaching a specific kingdom. Now, he's not preaching everything. This is where we get messed up, where people go, you can worship whatever you want. Well, Buddha didn't teach you could worship whatever you want. Right? Copernicus actually did a little bit of preaching, if you will, but Confucius didn't preach whatever you want, right? Do whatever you want. President Ikeda doesn't preach you can do whatever you want, right? We can keep on going and going. The Dalai Lama doesn't preach you can do whatever you want. Yogis don't preach you can do whatever you want. Elijah Muhammad doesn't preach you can do whatever you want. Muhammad didn't preach whatever you wanted, right? In all of these, what we like to call religions, nobody's saying you can do whatever you want, but people seem to like to say you can do whatever you want, right? You said, no, Christianity is religion. Bible doesn't speak of religion. The word religion literally, once again, means a legion of people who repetitively do the same thing. So it's not, the word religion shouldn't be under attack. You should be saying, what is somebody's religion? You hear what I'm saying? So, and all these different things, right? People keep trying to reclassify words. But what did Yashua do? What was his classification of these words we're going to go through today? Well, it says he was in Galilee, and he was doing what? Teaching their synagogues. Now, we're going to see a term here that's going to pop up over and over again. You were taught in English class, by the way, even though this is better English than many of us speak and know. You were taught in your English class that you are not supposed to make sure that you do what? That you say and over and over and over and over again, right? Oh, goodness. Hold on. Oh, I was actually going to let somebody come on live, but they went away. If the person's listening, they can go ahead and try again. I'll go ahead and let you come on the live if you like. But here you have this thing where Yashua is preaching about kingdom. He's preaching about kingdom, right? And so here he is preaching about kingdom in Galilee. And there's this word that pops up that's going to pop up over and over again, which is and. Now in Hebrew, because a lot of people don't know the culture, we have to go ahead and get us to a place of this. Hebrew is a term that's actually at, aleph and tav, which is the first character and the last character. At literally meaning going towards something, meaning it's the beginning of something, meaning it's the end of something, or meaning we're focusing on something. So when you see and, it's saying going towards this, going towards this, going towards this. That's why and's going to pop up. In this context, it's going to keep saying we're going towards this, going towards this, going towards this. That's why you see it in English. Now, you were told, because somebody doesn't want your culture to be around or they don't know your culture, you were told that and is bad. Don't begin a sentence with and. Don't say and so many times. Why do you have these run-on sentences, right? However, in our culture, and is something that you are using specifically to say I'm pointing towards something, I'm focusing on an idea, I'm beginning a thought, or this thought is so powerful it's actually the beginning and the end. Okay? So, I'm going towards something, and this, and this, and this, at this, towards this. So this is what's gonna, so now that you got the context prayerfully, let's get this together. So now, when we read this, it says, and Yashvai, right? So at, towards what? Towards this, the beginning of the thought, and at Yashvai went about all Galilee, teaching in their synagogues. At, or and, or towards doing what? Why was he preaching? He was preaching in the synagogues to give a specific message. What was the specific message? And, or at, preaching the gospel of Ladach, or kingdom. Okay? He was teaching about the kingdom. He was not showing up just for service. He was not showing up just because the law said he should show up, although he was obedient to law. He was coming to establish a kingdom. Right? It didn't say that he came and he preached on what? Many kingdoms. It didn't say that he preached a kingdom. People try to switch words around. That's not what it says. In Hebrew or even in English, it says specifically what? That he came to preach specifically about a specific, the kingdom. Not many, the kingdom. That's why it's and, at. He's preaching towards a kingdom. And when he preached towards that kingdom, then it says he preached towards that, why? At, and the healing of all manner of sickness came up, which meant that this kingdom was introduced so that then the healing could be produced. Did you catch that? The healing could not be introduced until first the system that the healing came out of showed up. Once again, if people don't comprehend this, did Christianity exist before the Bible? If the Bible existed before Christianity, right, or if the scrolls, if you will, if the Torah existed before Christianity, you can use the scrolls and not be Christian because they would have used scrolls before somebody told you that you had to be Christian to use them. Okay? All right. So hopefully people got that because they keep saying, I'm confused. It's not that confusing, right? Okay? Somebody could play basketball before there was a such thing as the NBA. You don't need the NBA in order to play basketball. Just because basketball is being played does not mean that you have to be in the NBA. So just because the Bible is being used does not mean you have to be a Christian. All right? There you go. So getting back to the focus, that seems to be a weird concept for people to grasp, but hopefully we're grasping that, right? So getting back to something that existed and somebody who existed before Christianity, right? Christ existed before Christianity, right? So getting back to the person who's speaking before Christianity existed, right? It says that he had to introduce the kingdom before he could introduce the healing. Then it says the healing was given, because what happens and or at towards what? The healing had to be given of all sickness. Why? So that all disease could be taken away from the people. So disease and sickness are two different things, according to the Bible, according to the culture. Right? Think about that. Right. So once again, no religion makes sense to you. So people who brush their teeth and go for a run don't make sense to you. You see what I'm saying? People are using words incorrectly. You religiously have a cup of coffee. It's not the word religion you need to worry about. It's what the religion that people do and how it affects others that you need to be worried about. You see that? So getting back to the culture, because people are trying to take us off culture. People always attack culture with or sometimes ignorantly attack culture, not knowing what somebody actually stands for. So check this out. So here we are. Where it's saying that Yahshua went specifically to Galilee to teach in their synagogues, specifically bringing about the kingdom, right? Where he had just said the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Now here it is, he's preaching about the kingdom. And before he could, and he had to preach the kingdom in order to take care of all the sickness. And before he could, and he had to take care of all the sickness before he could take care of all the dis-ease. This is kingdom mentality. This is kingdom psychology. This is different than a lot of us are used to. And I'm speaking differently with a different authority. And I'm speaking with a different standard because many people's standard that they're trying to use on this is not our standard. It's not even the standard of the one that they're trying to proclaim. Meant this or meant that. Right? So here we are with him saying, before I can get you to come out of dis-ease, I have to make sure that I deal with what? Your sickness. And before I can deal with your sickness, I have to first preach the kingdom. Okay? Now, it says after this, verse 24, and At, At and his fame went through all Syria. So he became famous, but he only became famous, what? After disease is going away, and after sickness is going away, and after he's preaching the kingdom. The kingdom must be established. Then the kingdom, because of the kingdom, he picks up fame. And it says it went throughout all Syria. Now pay attention to these names. All Syria, and Syria is not just a place only in Yashtia. Syria has an influence of many places. So his fame is not just in a specific people or just a couple thousand people or just a couple hundred that heard his name. He's picking up steam. You know, it's picking up steam where it's reaching the world, the system. right? These are on trade routes and serious trade routes, all types of spices and golds and all types of silvers and everything. And Rome is in the midst of all this. So he's picking up steam. People know about this. They're hearing about this, not just after he's dead, while he's yet living, right? And it says that he's going to, and they brought, watch this, once they found out he was healing all manner of sickness, they brought him sick people, right? And that were taken with diverse diseases. They found out he was taking care of diseases and torments, right? Things that were messing with them, tormenting them, even mentally. All right? So here we are. And then it says, and those which were possessed with devils, right? So he's dealing with people who are possessed with devils. The kingdom is taking care of things that are here, right? And then all of a sudden it says what? And those which were lunatic. Now, a lot of people miss that term, because what does that term mean? That term does not mean that you're crazy. It literally is talking about worship of the moon. Ishtar, Easter, moon goddess. People got to have the moon pendant. People have to say, you're my sun and my moon and my stars, right? People worshiping the moon, which is a problem still to this day. It says that they brought him lunatic, people that were so busy in moon worship that it actually had them off course, right? People are so busy saying that I will worship anything. I will worship the creation before I worship the creator. They brought him to him, right? They brought him to him. Right, and if you once again have questions, thank you, Minister Tamer, for that. You can just put them in the question mark box right down here. And as I have a chance to, I will try my best to get to them, all right? So, and here it is. So they brought him all these people, and even those that had palsy, right? Who had the palsy, and what did it say? And he healed them. So the kingdom is what attracted all this to him, and it's through the kingdom that he healed. You got to get the context. Right? And it says, and they followed him with great multitudes of people from Galilee, right? So if you know about the map, Galilee, a little further down, then you have, it says from Decapolis. Now, Decapolis is basically like a New York City and then some. Decapolis, like New York City, basically, when you talk about New York City, you're talking about 5 different places, right? Well, Decapolis, it's actually 10 cities. Think about how much that is, right? Decapolis is actually 10 cities. Okay? 10 specific cities that are going about all over the place, right? 10 cities. And from Jerusalem, right, going down, we're talking about, back down to the southern kingdom places and stuff, or within the southern kingdom, all right? And we're talking about, you got a whole noise on the horizon. Okay. And from Judea and from beyond Jordan. So this is picking up steam all over the place. People from Africa, people from what you would call the Middle East, even though that's technically Africa, but people from all over the Middle East, from Africa. It's even giving you Greek city names, right? So you got to think about Greece, right? You also have to think about the fact that it's talking about, if you look on the map at that time, you will actually see that it's talking about what we now would call Biblios, which is where the term Bible even comes from. And that's basically dealing with our brothers and sisters that are Phoenician. You see that? So it's saying he's getting all this stuff. Thanks, babe. I appreciate that. I needed that because it was getting on my nerves. So here we go, right? So here we go now, right? Where it says, and seeing the multitudes, he went up into a mountain. So he saw the people following him. He saw the people following him because they were seeing all these different things. And he had started with kingdom. People are coming because of all the things that come out of the kingdom. They're worshiping the results and not what gives the result, right? They're worshiping the donut and not the person who, or they're trying to pay the donut, pay money to the donut, but they're not actually paying money to the baker. You know what I'm saying? They like the donut, but they don't want anything to do with the baker. And a lot of people like that. They like the creation, but they don't want anything to do with the creator. Anything we can do to discredit the creator, we're going to go ahead and do, right? So all this stuff is happening, and now we finally get to Matthew chapter 5, which is going to be, we're going to end at verse 12 today, all right? Matthew chapter 5, verse 12 will be our end. Tomorrow we'll go through verses 13 through 16, and we'll continue to go on 17 through 20, and keep on going and going and going from there, right? So Matthew chapter 5, we finally have set up some context to how this kingdom is affecting things all over the place. And it says, Yahshua looked and he saw the multitudes. So what does he do? In seeing the multitudes, right? Did it say that he was interested in creating the church? Did it say that he's passed around a collection plate? Did it say that he was ready to make sure everybody dressed like him and talked like him? Did it say, right, that he was concerned about how everybody thought he looked? He went and changed his clothes? No, no, no. It says that he saw the multitude, and when he saw the multitude, this is what he did. He said he went up into a mountain. He went up into a high place. He went higher into thought. What took him higher? Why did he need to get to a higher place? And it says, and he was set there. His disciples came to him, right? So all these people following him who want to be disciplined underneath him, they came where he went. They followed him. They came up higher. He said, I need to take you to a higher place. And we need to make sure that we sit here for a second. And this is what I'm going to introduce. What does he introduce? Did he introduce the sect, right? S-E-C-T? Did he introduce what you guys like to call religion, which people keep asking about over and over and over again, right? Is this what he's talking about? No, right? What he said is that what we need to do what? To focus on the kingdom. This is how we know he did. Because verse 2 says, and he opened his mouth, and what did it do? He taught them. So he went back to what started the whole thing of fame in the first place. All the stuff that caused everybody to come was about what? He went into Galilee, and he preached the kingdom. The kingdom message started reaching people, and it started healing this sickness. It started healing disease. It started healing people with the palsy. They started bringing people with the palsy who were into different religions, who were doing all types of stuff. And he started knocking all this stuff out the park through the kingdom. And so people were following him, waiting for him to establish something. And so what does he establish? The very same thing that he said was at hand in Matthew chapter 4, verse 17. The same thing that he started preaching in Matthew chapter 4, verse 23. It says that he started preaching on kingdom. Now we're at verses 3 through 12, the Beatitudes, if you will. All right. Now we're at Matthew chapter 5, verses 3 through 12. You ready? So it says here, it says, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Now, this seems like a very simple thing to say. A lot of people hear this and mismanage this. I've heard a lot of different sermons and a lot of different thought processes on this. But the first thing that he does, once again, he didn't establish what you guys call religion, even though we misuse that word. He didn't establish churches. He didn't establish this. He didn't establish a fish fry. He didn't establish a collection plate. He said, first things first, he said we have to preach the kingdom. He said, is the same kingdom that's preached to be within you? Of course. It can be within you. It can be outside of you. It's supposed to be within everything that's within the Most High. Everything is symbiotic relationship, right? So that's pretty simple. So he establishes the kingdom. Thanks, babe. He establishes the kingdom of Yah, right? That's what he came to establish. Not to establish what you want. It's the kingdom, a kingdom, specific kingdom. It's not one of many. It's not we're going to put all these things together. He says, I'm come to establish the kingdom. And what does he say? He says, blessed the poor in spirit. Excuse me. Now, this is something that's really crucial in what we're discussing, because a lot of people have this idea that you have to have a certain mindset or a certain degree, or you have to have a certain amount of followers. But what he's saying is these people who are following him from all these places have been taught by Pharisees, Sadducees, and scribes, by Roman rhetoric, by people who are Israel and really aren't Israel, by all these different people. They've been taught that really you ain't nothing because you don't know what we know. Bow down to us. Remember, great leadership does not mean that you lead people. It means you lead environments. And so these people who should be leading environments that allow other leaders to be produced are actually trying to lead people and make slaves of them. So here comes Yahshua, and he has a freeing message that he's been preaching. And it's not only freeing people, but it's what? Setting the captives free. Right? It's setting the mindset of people free. And he says, so those of you who are poor in spirit, I know they told you you don't know this. I know they told you you're not good enough. I know they told you you ain't black enough. I know they told you you're too white. I know they told you this, that, what. I know they told you you light-skinned. I know they told you this. He said, I know they told you Israel is just now a Roman, property. I know they told you all these things. He said, but I'm here to tell you something about this. He said, the kingdom of heaven belongs to you. This is an amazing statement for them. Because these are people who thought, I'm not great enough. You know how many people I run into? I don't think I can pray. Hey, Rocky Mountain. I don't think I can pray. Because I don't think Yah's going to hear me. Right? But the kingdom belongs to you. Why wouldn't you pray? I don't think I can make thus and such amount of money. Right? Well, in our kingdom, our Father owns all the cattle on 1,000 hills. What makes you think that you're poor? I don't know the Bible as much as somebody else, so I'm just not good enough. I had to have somebody else explain it to me. Well, you might be poor in spirit now, but study to show yourself approved unto Yah, that you might be a workman that needed not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. He literally says, the kingdom of heaven, you've been taught that you've been poor in spirit. Everybody's following him. He says, let me take you a little higher. See, you're following me thinking that the only thing that you can get from the kingdom is just healing when I put my hands on you. The reality is you should get to a point to where not only can you put your hands on yourself, but you can put your hands on your situation and others as led, right? He's literally saying, I'm the door. I am the door, right? I'm opening up the kingdom. I've come to give you access to the kingdom. The kingdom was taken from you. People told you that the kingdom was taken from you, right? But I've come to give you what? The kingdom. The kingdom of heaven, it belongs to you. Don't let anybody tell you that you're too poor in spirit, in pneumatical thought. That's right, pneumatical thought, spirit, pneumatical thought, stoic thought that marries the spirit, the body, and the soul together. He says, don't let anybody tell you that you can't be holy, whole, to be one. Stop being double-minded, where you're trying to be in the kingdom, which is something that supersedes everything, right? And at the same time, you're listening to men who are trying to squash down anything. He says, the kingdom of heaven belongs to you. You are a master in the kingdom. You are a king in the kingdom. You are a queen in the kingdom. You are a prince in the kingdom. You are a princess in the kingdom. The kingdom doesn't belong to those that keep telling you it belongs to everybody else. It belongs to you. That's blessed are the poor in spirit. They're telling you you're poor in spirit. Thanks for the love. They're trying to teach you that you're poor in spirit. They're trying to teach you that you ain't nothing. But the reality is that if the kingdom belongs to you and it resides in you, which we'll learn later on with the woman at the well, well, then guess what? If it resides in me and it belongs to me, then why am I allowing some other kingdom, some worldly system that can't even get together, love your brother and sister, whether they're black or not? If they can't even get that right, why am I listening to that instead of the kingdom that says that when Israel is sealed, others can be grafted in? That we all should be working towards making sure that the world is taken care of. Why am I trying to live in a system that won't pay me when I could come together as a community, get some land like we're working on, right? And if you want to be part of that, let us know, and get some land that we're working on so that come the end of next year, we'll be able to say, hey, if anything happens and you can't function, or you got to have this to be able to work, or that to be able to work, or whatever, come and join your brothers and sisters, because the kingdom of heaven has a spot that belongs to you. He's telling you that stop worrying about being poor in spirit. Stop worrying about what somebody else has been telling you. Stop worrying about when somebody says that your hair has to look like this to function. Stop worrying about that somebody says you got to dress like this to function. Stop worrying about somebody says you got to walk down the aisle this way so that we'll say that you are pure and chaste and all that stuff. He said the kingdom belongs to you. You hear what I'm saying? And if you do want to join, just let us know. You can DM me if you're on TikTok. You can hit me in the comment section. I'll put our information up at the end of the live session if you want to be part of this stuff, right? So he says the kingdom of heaven, it belongs what? To you. Right? Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. The next thing he says, verse 4 of Matthew chapter 5, he says, blessed are they that mourn, for you shall be comforted. So they're sitting up there telling people back then, you got to get the context. Back then, you have to understand the context is, hey, man, you know what? Like, why are you crying over this? People still say, stop crying, get yourself together, be strong, be a man. Be a strong woman. Be a strong black woman. You know what? It's okay to mourn. In the kingdom, when you mourn, people rush to comfort you. You got to understand the thought process of this. The thought process of this, right? The thought process of this. People are out there mourning, right? And they keep mourning and mourning and mourning. And we're like, oh man, we're mourning. Oh, I can't do this. And people are saying, man, why that person always crying? Why that person's always crying and this and that. And I understand there's limits to it, right? Some people need not to focus so much on depression, right? But at the same time, like, depression is a real thing, and things that can cause depression are a real thing. So he says, look, man, in the kingdom, not only if you're poor in spirit does it belong to you, he's shifting the paradigm. He's flipping the pancake, as my spiritual father would say. Yeah, he's shifting the paradigm. He says you've been taught that you're not supposed to cry over this and do this and that your feelings don't matter. He said in the kingdom, if you feel a certain way, we're coming to comfort you. Now, we're not coming to baby you. We are coming, however, to comfort you, right? People get into these weird things with me, these weird dissertations, these weird apologetic sessions back and forth, and they'll say something like crazy, like, "Oh, well, since you don't support abortion 100%, and you're not with us 100%, it means that if somebody has an abortion, what, you hate people that get abortions?" I'm like, no, I actually talk to many people that have had abortions, and you know what I have to do when they have abortions? I gotta love them. When they come to me and they say, "Well, I'm depressed, man. My child would have been this age," and I really think about what would have happened if my child had survived, but I went ahead and let them be aborted or whatever. Or I deal with a man who was saying, "I wanted her to get an abortion. She got the abortion, and now it kills me, it hurts me, and it hurts me that she hurts," and stuff like that. And guess what I do? I comfort them. Because in the kingdom, we give comfort. Right? But people try to make it, "Oh, you're not with abortion, blah, blah." It doesn't mean that I don't still love the person. I cannot like the sin and still love the person, right? You know how many people have been murdered by tongues? By my own tongue. In my life, talking bad about somebody, putting my tongue, thinking that somebody did something. That's why I'm quick not to judge anymore. Because the same way you judge, you shall be judged. The same way that you condemn, you shall be condemned. If you can't forgive others, you won't be forgiven. That's why it says, "Given it shall be given unto thee. Great measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, shall men give into your bosom. For with the same measure that you meet or you give out, shall it be given unto thee." So I'm quick now to realize, you know what? One of the best blessings I ever got as a pastor was to realize I have no heaven or hell to put anybody else in. Only one being on the planet or in the universe. And in creation, and even creation in the spirit has the right to be able to put somebody there, and therefore I'm not worried about it. I'm just here to love you, and I'm here to comfort you, right? I'm here to love you, I'm here to comfort you. Got mosquitoes trying to bite me up this rising. We're gonna preach this word though, right? Now verse 5, Matthew chapter 5, verse 5. Then it says, "Blessed are the meek, the humble." Why? "For they shall inherit the earth." Now, this is a conflicting thing that he's saying back then and still today, because many people swear up and down that you're not supposed to know what humility is. Think about this. Think about this. People will tell you straight up, don't ever say that you're humble, because if you say that you're humble, you can't be humble. Question is, though, that if you're humble, 7 times 77 or 7 times 7 or whatever that was, 7 times 70, whatever the comment was that was said, right? So if you say that you're humble, right? Check this out. If you say that you're humble, then people say that you're not humble. Question though, if you don't know what humility is, then how do you reach humility? Right? These are things that are being taught still to this day. He's shifting the paradigm. He says, look, in the kingdom, there are specific things that make someone humble, right? And so if you can humble yourself before the mighty hand of the Almighty, then it says what? The meek shall what? Inherit the earth. The meek shall what? Inherit the earth. Those who humble themselves, now you're in a position to start talking about inheritance of what rightfully belongs to you, because the king made it in the first place. If it's the king's, then he can give it to whoever he wants. Humble yourself. Humble yourself. Humble yourself. Now, what is humility? If you look up the fruits of the Spirit before you can get to humility, you got to do 8 things first. You got to know what love is. You got to know what joy is. You got to know what peace is. You got to know what long-suffering is. You got to know what gentleness is. You got to know what being like Elohim is. You have to know what faith is. And then you can talk about humility. Right? Y'all like it when what's-his-face says be humble? When he says be humble, he just basically talking about he better than you. Right? And y'all like to quote that, but what about quoting scriptures about humility? Can you be humble? Can you be humble when people are out here just saying all manner of evil against you? We're going to talk about that later on, right? So far, blessed are the poor in spirits, because they're going to inherit the earth. Blessed are those that mourn, because comfort is on the way. Blessed are the meek, because the earth belongs to you. He's telling people that are in a humble situation, that are being told they're nothing. They don't have money. They don't have land. They're following somebody around. Why can't they just follow somebody around? Some of them left their jobs and stuff. Some of them left their homes. Some of them can follow them around though, because they ain't got nothing. And he's talking to these wayward people and saying, guess what? You've been taught that you're nothing. But he said, those of you who have nothing here, the first will be last and the last will be first. Those of you who have nothing here, just keep on being humble, because you shall inherit the earth. Now, he didn't say you shall inherit the heaven, because the kingdom of heaven already belongs to you. Catch that. Catch that real quick. He didn't say you shall inherit the heaven, because the kingdom of heaven already what? It already belongs to you. We're not worried about receiving the kingdom of heaven. Everybody keeps talking about when I die, one glad morning when this life is over, I'll fly away. That's nice and everything, but he said right now I should be inheriting some things. He said right now I should be inheriting some things. Yes, Chill Pill, we're at the Beatitude. Right now, in this moment, why do I got to keep waiting to inherit what's already mine? If I can humble myself, then he says I can inherit the earth right now. But in the South, we say right now, right now, right? Right now, right now, right? Like, but you can inherit the earth. Verse 6 now. Blessed are they which do hunger and thirst after what? After righteousness. Now, this is something that you got to put, because people are always talking about trying to get rid of law. Problem with that is that Yahshua Mashiach, when he uses that term righteousness, righteousness literally means to be within right, legal standing. You said when we perish from this planet, we are all leaving empty-handed. Sure, you're not taking physical things with you, but it doesn't mean that Yahshua doesn't want you to have physical things while you're here. Right? We're not going to do that whole thing of having a spirit of poverty. Right? I once was young, and now I'm old, and I've never seen the righteous forsaking, nor have I seen their seed begging bread. Okay? So I'm not saying you got to be a millionaire, but I am saying you shouldn't be sitting up here, we shouldn't be sitting up here having people showing up to congregations that are full with, thanks babe, filled with 100,000 people on a Sunday, and then that same congregation turns around when the city is flooding and they can't go inside to make sure that they're not wet. Okay? So I'm not saying that you got to be a millionaire. I am saying, however, though, there's nothing wrong with having something here while you're on the planet. That comes from us being in a job mentality where you got to work for somebody else all the time and never work for yourself or work within your gift or work within your calling. How are you going to work within your calling and be as successful as you are in your job if your job supersedes your calling? A lot of us are not in a position to where we a lot of us aren't even thinking about getting in a position to where we can make sure that we have the opportunity to be in something that supersedes the job or whatever. A lot of us don't even think that way. Okay? So, once again, blessed are what? Are those who hunger and thirst after righteousness, being in right legal standing, lawful, being in right legal standing. Why? It says, for they shall be filled. Now, if I'm hungry and thirsty for righteousness, right legal standing, for law, then what does that mean? Then I will be filled with law. Uh-oh. People don't want to hear that. I feel the New Testament people in my spirit who believe that there's an Old and New Testament because somebody started teaching you that when there's really no such thing in the Bible. The Bible does not teach that there's an Old Testament, and then when Matthew hits, now there's a New Testament. Nowhere does it say that. Somebody taught you that, but I can feel that New Testament spirit rising. I need you to go ahead and pray about that spirit. I might need you to see if you can just let that spirit sit for a second. Just let it rumble in there and listen long enough where you can hear what I'm saying, because the term righteousness, once again, means right legal standing. So I'm supposed to hunger and thirst to be in right legal standing, and then I will be filled with what? With that which I'm hungered and thirsty for. People try to switch that around. If I'm hungry and thirsty to be in right legal standing, then I will be filled with what I'm hungry and thirsty for. Right? That's plain. It's the nose on your face, as they would say, right? I don't have to explain that one too much, right? If I'm hungry and thirsty for right legal standing, then I will be filled with right legal standing. He's telling them, now this for them, they got this because the people back then are looking at Pharisees, Sadducees, and scribes that are leading them, and that are leading them by saying, you're not righteous enough, you're not legal enough, you're not legal enough. He said, well, if you hunger and thirst for being legal as far as the kingdom is concerned, then the kingdom will fill you with what you need to be filled with, which is righteous legal standing, right legal standing. Okay? Verse 7. Then he says, blessed are the merciful. So why? For they shall obtain mercy. Wait a minute. So if I'm giving people mercy, then I'm going to obtain what I give out. Give and it shall be given unto thee. If you're not merciful in your life, then why do you keep thinking that other people will be merciful towards you? You can't show any mercy towards somebody, but you keep talking about how people should be merciful towards you when you do wrong. Why can't you just let that go? Why can't you just forgive me? Why can't you just do this? Well, do you forgive others? Are you merciful? Do you give time out of your day to be merciful? Do you love mercy to the point where you extend mercy? And mercy is not even forgiveness. Mercy is, I know you deserve bad, but I'm still going to give you mercy. I'm still going to let it go. Mercy, that's what mercy is. Mercy is, you deserve death, but I'm going to go ahead and let you live. Mercy is, look, your child stole money out your wallet, and they deserve all types of punishment, including maybe even you calling the police, depending on how much money they stole. I can't believe you would steal from me. However, since I love you as a parent, I got to let it go. It doesn't mean that I'm just going to say, hey, what you did was right, but all right. Like, I'm not going to go to a route. I'm not going to do what other people would do to you. Why? Because we have a relationship. Mercy. All right? And the greater the relationship, the greater the mercy. Come on, somebody. If I've known you for 2 minutes and you do something dirty to me, I'll extend mercy as far as, okay, man, whatever, like, go ahead, we ain't gonna talk no more. But if I've known you for 20 years and you do something dirty to me, it might hurt even worse. But guess what? Like, at some point, I'm gonna say, you still, like, I've known you for 20 years, man. It hurts a lot more because I've known you for 20 years, but there's probably some way, shape, or form we're gonna be able to make this relationship get back on track, right? Because mercy. Right? Because the mercy has been extended. Mercy, can you extend mercy? Right? To the level that you extend mercy is the level that mercy will be extended towards you. If you're somebody that says, man, have mercy upon me, have mercy upon me. First thing he's going to say is, did you have mercy upon somebody else? Okay? Matthew chapter 5 now, verse 8. Blessed are the pure in heart. In lab, in Hebrew, right? In passion, in your passion. Blessed are the pure in your passions. Wait a minute. The pure in what you do? No. The pure in the passion behind what you do. If your passions are right, you will be blessed. Blessed are your passions. What are you going to be blessed with? If your passions are pure, if they are clean, clean is another word that means legal. That's why when they did a sacrifice, they had to make sure the animal was clean. Right? That's why when it talks about being a living sacrifice, it's talking about being clean, being legal. Because people don't comprehend the culture, they keep trying to make all this other stuff up. And we have all these weird arguments. Right? But blessed are those that are clean or pure or legal in their heart, in their passions. Why? For they shall see Elohim. So if I want to see Elohim, I have to be legal. I have to be pure. My passions have to be pure. When my passions are pure, he shows up. When my passions are not pure, he cannot show up. Can I say that again? When my passions are pure, he shows up. When my passions are not pure, he does not show up. Yeah, we've talked about that before, loving your enemies, right? So what are your passions? Are you passionate and passionate legally in a clean manner? Because if you are, then you can see Elohim. Then he can show up. If you're not passionate legally, stop thinking he's going to show up. Right? That scripture that people love, I think it's James 1:8 or whatever, but the one that everybody loves to talk about, being double-minded. When you read that scripture, you'll see, and when you read it in context, you'll see that verse everybody holds on to is actually talking about somebody who tries to pray, and their prayers can't really, as the old folks say, can't go no higher than the ceiling because they keep praying, but their passions aren't right, they're not living righteous, and so they're trying to pray to the Most High, who is in a legal place where you got to be in a certain position to be able to get to him, and you're trying to pray to somebody, but you ain't living what you speaking. And so therefore the covenant is off. Therefore you being a testament is off. Therefore what you're supposed to be is off. And so you're praying to somebody, but they can't hear you because you're double-minded. Your prayer's all over the place because your mind is all over the place. Your spirit's all over the place. Get your spirit, passions and things in order. Check yourself. Make sure that you're clean. Make sure you're going down the specific path. The kingdom, not a kingdom, not what you want a kingdom to be, not the kingdom you're trying to bring inside the kingdom. Be pure specifically and then pray. And it says now you're being double-minded is not going to be an issue. Therefore, your prayer is going to be able to be heard. So be pure in heart. Be legal. Be clean in your passion. And then it says Elohim will show up. Verse 9. Blessed are the peacemakers. Do we have anybody that makes peace? Not professes peace, not says I want peace on earth, not says goodwill towards all men. He says if you are somebody who makes peace, that means you got to go through a creative process with peace. Okay, real quick culturally, because this is something I just want to throw this out here for you to study, because a lot of people, once again, you're talking about things from a different perspective because you're talking about things from a different culture. If you ask the question, just real quick, then I got to get back on focus because it's almost time for me to take my leave. So let's be on focus. Legal passion, right? Being legally set, having the right concept of the culture. You ready? When he says, no man knows the day nor the hour but the Father, that's because in our culture, when somebody gets married, right, you're supposed to be already a husband or a wife before you get married. You're supposed to be qualified as a husband or wife before you get married. What happens is the wife then, who's betrothed, she goes away to purify herself, to get ready for her husband, and to make sure she goes to the Wailing Mountain so that she can go ahead and be thankful and grateful, and at the same time mourn for the fact that her chastity is about to be given up so she can become one with somebody else. The husband, meanwhile, he goes and he starts building a mansion, right? In my Father's house, there are many mansions. The reason he does this is because a mansion is not a big house. That's what somebody taught you. A mansion is supposed to be what? An add-on to a house, which is why if you go to certain cultures, you'll see that there's a house and it looks like there's this weird add-on, but it's not the same color, and another add-on, another add-on. Those are called mansions. And what that represents is there's generations of people who have built on to their father's house. And they keep building on as sons to their father's house, right? And keep building on to the wealth and things like that. So when it's telling you no man knows the day nor the hour, the reason is because the son is supposed to build. He's giving you a way to think about this on an earthly level in the culture so you can think about what's happening in heaven. Basically, the son keeps building and the father looks over the son. So the son is building while the father is looking over it. And so the father has to be the one to say, hey, son, it's time for you now. Your house looks good. And the father's doing this because the father knows from his own experience what a wife is, what she's going to need. He's also met the daughter-in-law, so he's like, hey, you know she likes this. You might want to build this in here. You might want to have this over here. You might want to have this many stoves. You might want to make sure that there's this many couches. You might want to make sure that you got, she doesn't necessarily like the whole open ceiling type thing. So you might want to make sure that ceiling's closed up there. Hey, what about the color pattern? What about this? Hey, do you need money for this? He's doing all these different things. So they finally finish all of that. Right, and then the father is the one who says, "Okay, son, the house is good now. Go ahead, get my daughter, get married. Marriage is sex, and sex is marriage. So now you can become one, husband and wife. Now the husband and wife can legally have sex because the father has said the house is ready, and they can move into the house and be able to raise the babies together and be attached to the family and keep the wealth in the family. So he's using an earthly situation to be able to explain a heavenly thing that's going on, to help you to process that part of what's going on. But because people don't study the culture, once again, people just make random things and be like, well, how can he be one? That's not what he's doing there. He's specifically talking about something within our culture, okay? That's why you got to add the culture down, right? That's why we're going to be obedient to the culture, all right? So let's get back into this now. Everybody got that? And if you didn't get it, you can feel free to DM me or whatever. Maybe we can have conversation offline. Matthew chapter 5, verse 9, you got to create peace. And if you create peace, it says, you shall be called the children of Elohim. So wait a minute. Everybody's Elohim's child. Well, if you don't make peace, it says that we don't declare you that. And not we, he. I didn't write this. Now somebody will say another man wrote it. Okay, whatever. Wherever you want to go. I'm just making it a point to say, I'm not coming up with this off the fly. It's telling you specifically context. We have a YouTube channel. Just look up hashtag Find Kofi. My name up there, Kofi, and hashtag FIND. Hashtag Find Kofi, hashtag FINDKOFI, right? And you can find us on any platforms, by the way, looking that up. So here you are. If you're talking about this stuff, all you got to do is literally go to a place where you're dealing with the culture. So how can I say I'm a child of the Most High and I can't say I've ever created peace? Thanks, babe. Yep, we're on 8 a.m. Eastern New York time. So how can I say I'm a child of the Most High and I've never created peace? Yep, that's it. Hashtag find Kofi. So once again, how can I say I'm a child of the Most High? This is the second YouTube channel, by the way, because they took down the last one because the World Health Organization didn't like what we were saying about COVID, or so they say. It doesn't actually match up, but anyways, we'll leave that alone. Let's stay focused. How can I say that I'm a child of the Most High and I have nothing that shows that I create peace? Yes, this will be on YouTube as well. We try to make as many of them on YouTube as possible, or on our podcasts, all right? So how can I say I'm a child of the Most High, once again, and I can't say that I create peace? It's not on my resume. On your resume, if you say that you're a child of the Most High is looking to see where's the peace, and did you create the peace? Did you only show up in everybody else's peace, or did you create the peace? Blessed are the peacemakers. Not the ones that just say, I just want peace in my house. Well, bruh, when you come home and you want peace in your house, what have you done to make sure that your wife has an environment where peace is there? Have you created an environment that allows for peace? I've got all types of personalities that come in and out of our properties that we have, right? At the end of the day, when we're on those properties, when we're going to different places, when we're going to hotels, when we're going to other people's homes, we're going to places that we frequently visit, whatever the case might be, I'm responsible for creating peace. And when my wife is in a place where she's doing some things that I feel aren't creating peace, the first person I have to look at is me. That's in Ephesians chapter 5 too, when people talk about Ephesians 5:22 and Ephesians 5:25. Keep on reading, because I'm responsible for the peace. My wife is a reflection of me. So if there's no peace in the house, it means that there's something I'm doing that's not causing peace. And ladies, if there's no peace coming from your husband, sometimes you gotta look at yourself and say, what's going on? Why is he acting like this? Is there something that he's been telling me that I'm not listening to? Because every wife wants to feel secure and every husband wants to be heard. Now we get to verse 10 through 12. So let me just read these verses real quick, verses 3 through 9, and then we'll get to verses 10 through 12. Then I'm going to take my leave, all right? You ready? Here we go. So verses 3 through 9, rather. Matthew chapter 5, 3 through 9. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are they which do hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see Elohim. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of Elohim. Now here's the kicker. All that, here's the kicker, okay? You ready for this? No. Everybody want to be the victim. I take on the victim role. I love the victim role, right? As far as this, because you guys don't even know what victim and victor means, right? And I don't know if you mean that negatively or positively, but I want you to catch this. Blessed are they, because that's not a curse word for me, right? Because watch this. Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs, sorry, we just lost TikTok for a second, my bad. Sorry those who are on TikTok. You guys back? Okay, here we go. This is the kicker. This part I love right here. Blessed, verse 10. Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. So the same thing he said about the poor in spirit refers to the same one of us that are persecuted for what? For righteousness' sake. So if I'm in right legal standing with the Most High, and I'm making sure I'm taking care of myself and my family, I'm making sure I'm blessing my community, I'm making sure that I'm prayed up, I'm making sure that I'm giving positivity, I'm making sure that I'm bringing peace, I'm making sure that I'm humble, I'm making sure that I am mourning and comforting those that mourn, I'm making sure that I'm being merciful, I'm making sure that my passions are clean, right? And when I do all that, if somebody's just coming on here to say, well, you're a terrible person because you do those things, then it says what? It says, I'm blessed because the kingdom belongs to me. A sign of being in the kingdom is that somebody that's not in the kingdom would see what I'm doing and try to come at me. Right? But you coming at me, right? You hating on me because I show love. Right? Love greater than hate. But really, you showing hate towards me, you hating on me because I'm showing love. And even when you show me hate, I say, well, I mean, that's interesting you would say that, or it's interesting you say about that, about my hair. It's interesting you would say that I'm a devil, or it's interesting you would say that I'm a porch monkey, or all these terms people use. People use some wild terms. But guess what? It's interesting you would say that, but at the end of the day, if that's your way of saying hello, thank you for being on, we appreciate you, still gonna show you love even when you show hate, because your showing hate actually is something that I love. I can love my enemy now because I realize that when my enemy is hating on me, I realize, oh man, that's really just nothing but you showing love. Why? Because something about me has gotten in you, that agitation in the washer, right? You put clothes in the washing machine. The agitator is there to do what? To loosen the dirt and to get everything off and to clean the clothes. And so during the washing process, you got to be agitated. During the purification process, you got to be agitated. If you're there to agitate me, you just helping to purify me. I appreciate that, because now when the things become dry, when the situation becomes dry, like, I'm good. I'm clean now. Thank you for the agitation. And by the way, the word that's being given out, it's pure too. It's cleansing too. So just because you agitated, I'm glad you're agitated. It means that I'm having some things, there's some dirt on you that needs to be purified. Right? Right? So yeah, it's also a reflection, right? So you're seeing something in me, or I'm speaking something, and it's causing you to be like, man, I hate that. There's so many brothers that get on here, man, you need a haircut, you need to go get a job. You making black people look bad and making them think that they have to be Afrocentric and this. You can do whatever you want, but why is it that my hair looking the way it does, and my clothes looking the way it does, and my life being the way it is something that causes you to be frustrated? Could it be possible that something about you doesn't like the fact that you got to do what you got to do? You see what I'm saying? So I'm blessed if I'm doing nothing but just giving positivity and creating peace and showing people how to live righteous and giving classes for pretty much free, right? Because we just do it by donation. And doing all this stuff and not even asking for money, but money's still coming because the Most High takes care of my family for me and takes care of my community for me, because we're just doing His will, and I can just simply live minimally and be all right and not have to worry about being part of the system that everybody else is out here trying to function in. If that's what you guys got to do, then by all means, do what you do. By all means, do what you do. By all means, do what you do. Right? Right? But I'm not going to be mad at you for being mad at me, because if you agitate folk, it just simply means you cleaning them. Now, some of you are out there agitating people and then putting them right back in dirty water. Some of you just agitating for the sake of agitation. But if I'm agitation for righteousness' sake, remember the word righteousness literally means to be in legal right standing. If you're being agitated because I'm giving you stuff that's going to change your life, then by all means be agitated. And we praise the Most High for your agitation. I love you too much not to agitate you. I love you too much to have you out there messing up and doing the same thing and not treating your wife with respect and not making no money and being out there talking about how am I going to take care of this, and you tithing to people, but they don't make sure they teach you how to live off of 10% yourself, right? Like I'm not, like I'm ready to have you be agitated. I need you to be agitated. Right? And I need you to be agitated to the place where the agitation disappears and it creates peace. Because when the peacemaker shows up, blessed are the peacemakers, because then now it says what? That I'm be the child of Elohim. So if your agitation leads to peace, and I helped in some way to be able to lead you towards that peace, by all means, let me be an agitator. Let you be upset. Verse 11 then says, blessed are ye when men shall revile you. Doesn't just stop it. They agitated by you or persecuting you for righteousness' sake. It says when they revile you, that's strong, and persecute you, and shall say towards what? Saying all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake. Now Yahshua says for my sake, for my reputation. If people are reviling you and saying all manner of evil against you, what? Falsely, for his reputation, then he says you're blessed. He says you're blessed. But watch this. He says when it happens, verse 12, he says rejoice. The word joyce or joy means to jump. And means to do it over and over again. Rejoice. Get excited. You got something bad to say about it? I'm excited about that. Get excited. That pumps me up. I'm going to go work out to that. That's going to be my workout music. I'm going to be on the treadmill running. Oh, yeah, somebody said he's the devil. But all I did was preach the word. I'm rejoice. Right? Oh man, somebody said he's not a great person because he talked about Matthew chapter 5. He said Matthew instead of Matthew or whatever. I rejoice. Somebody saying he's evil because he said Yahshua instead of saying Jesus. Whew, I'm excited about that thing. I show up to my next venue, to my next thing I have to do on my travel. I'm excited about it. And you got to learn how to be excited when they say all manner of evil against you. See, a lot of people haven't learned that when they say all manner of evil against you, that's a rejoicing moment. See, your only shout music is when the organ hits, right? When the drummer hits you with that, you're excited then. But your music to jumping around and shouting should be, oh, mama called me up and said I'm in a cult. Right? I'm shouting all over the place, right? Because that's the word. That's what Yahshua said. He said that's what they're supposed to do because you're in a kingdom that's anti their kingdom. You're in a kingdom that's anti-United States. You're in a kingdom that's anti-Russia. You're in a kingdom that's anti-China. You're in a kingdom that's anti-North Korea. You're in a kingdom that's anti-World Health Organization. You're in a kingdom that's anti peace, that peace that only comes under when somebody else tells you can have peace rather than allowing you to make peace for yourself. You're in a kingdom that says that you should have legal right to be able to do what the Most High says, and wherever your foot treads, it belongs to you. You're in a kingdom that supports sovereignty. If you're in a kingdom that supports sovereignty and going against a kingdom that says that you should be a debt slave, of course people are going to hate you. Why wouldn't they? They wouldn't. Matter of fact, they don't belong on the team that's against you if they wouldn't be against you. Right? So he says, rejoice and be exceeding glad. Why? For great is your reward where? In heaven. In heaven. Great is your reward. Rejoice. Not just rejoicing just because they made fun of you, but rejoice because they made fun of you because why? It's your reward for them saying all the stuff they're saying about you is what? Just like they did Malcolm, right? Their reward about you being in righteousness and right legal standing is what? Heaven. And not only heaven, but it says great is your reward in heaven. Heaven is, people think that's the end all be all. People forget that heaven is going to be something that's in eternity. Right? Which means that heaven is something in eternity. There's other things that are going to keep going on. You're not just going to be in heaven and the only thing you're going to do every day shall be Sunday and all this stuff. You're still going to be in your work. This is training for what you're going to do for eternity. And great shall be your reward when you get there. People who are saying you can't take anything with you, yeah, you can take the equity that you built here because great is your reward in heaven. Build something here in the kingdom of heaven here right now so that when you get to the kingdom of heaven there, where the kingdom of heaven is still going to be in you and outside of you at the same time. But when you get to that kingdom of heaven, we're talking about on the other side of Rakia, that Radah, when you get to that place and you're able to exist there, great is your reward. You're bringing some equity. Stop talking about, oh, some glad morning. The kingdom of heaven starts today. Live it today so that you can bring with you when you go up there with your soul and your spirit to be in your new glorified body. When you take off corruptible and put on incorruptible, bring with you something that has equity. Great is your reward in heaven. For so, now here's the thing, it says colon in English, right? That means out of what we just said, something else is about to happen. He says, so rejoice and be exceeding glad, right? Colon, out of that, for great is your reward in heaven. Colon, out of that, for so persecuted they the prophets which were before you. If you ain't doing nothing but what the prophets did before you when they persecuted them, right? Right? Like when I have people that come on here, it's often funny. When people come on and they say stuff in the comment like, you're always preaching and you talk about race. Well, Martin Luther King Jr., he was a preacher, and you should be more like him. Martin Luther King Jr. didn't talk about race? You know what I'm saying? And when he talked about race back then, and he said something as simple as, I have a dream that little black boys, like black children and white children, could hold hands. And he was killed, 5 years later. Do you not know that the same people who are some of your parents, excuse me, black and white, by the way, called him a communist, said that he deserved his death, and said that he was asking for too much too soon. And I'm not talking about just a couple comments. I'm talking about they did a census. Did a census. And this is what people said about that man. The same people today that will tell you that you need to be more like him. Well, if you hated him back then, because let's stop acting like this is some long time ago thing, right? Let's just do some simple math. It's 2021, so we go 2011, right? So 2011, we're going by tens. 2011, 2001, 1991, 1981, 1971. Now let's go back 3 years to when he died. That's 53 years ago. All right? Now, if you want to be somebody who's old enough to have been saying whether they like him or not, let's just go to age 5 or 6. We ain't got to go that far. Let's go to age 7. Let's make it 60 years. If you're 60 years old or older, you're in a position to where you were probably somebody who was saying some terrible things about Martin Luther King Jr., black or white. You're probably, and if you're 20 years old, good chances you've been taught and trained by somebody in your life who said those terrible things. And if you're less than 20 years old, You probably still have been taught by those people, or you were taught by the people who were taught by those people. Right? How did we get to MLK Jr.? Because they said the same thing about the prophets that came before you. I'm trying to get you to understand that people who say, oh, you're terrible, you're bad, you shouldn't talk about this, they said the same thing about him. They said the same thing about Malcolm X, who was killed in '63. They said the same thing about Medgar Evers. They said the same thing about JFK. And JFK, that's supposed to be their boy. Right? They said the same thing about JFK. They said the same thing about RFK when he was killed. We don't have to go back that far. To people who proclaimed a righteous message. Or at least people will call it a righteous message. We can get into that part of it later. So if they said the same thing about them, right? Now, I want you to keep going back in history. Right? Now go all the way back. Who's Yashua talking about? That's 2,000 years ago. Over 2,000, well, almost 2,000 years ago. And Yashua HaMashiach, and he's saying, look, man, they said the same thing about Moses. He said, look, man, they said Moses was poor in spirit. He came back to his own people, told them what the Most High's name was, told them they were going to be free. And you know what they said to Moses? They said, man, I'm tired of you, Moses. Man, you got us out here picking up. Now Pharaoh doesn't like us anymore. Moses was the conduit used to be able to help them to get past the Red Sea. Once they got past the Red Sea, right? Or not, sorry, it's the Sea of Reeds. Excuse me, it's mistranslation. But once they got past the Sea of Reeds, right, and they got to where they were supposed to go, what did they do with Moses? What did they do with Moses? Oh, you know what? He ain't back soon enough. Yah hasn't made sure he did what he's supposed to do. Make for us a God. Make for us a Netcher, right? Make for us this golden calf. He said, man, they did the same thing to them. He said they said the same thing to Daniel. And Shadrach and Meshach and Abednego, all three of them came together and prayed in Daniel chapter 2 so that all those magi and all these people wouldn't be killed and stuff. And then in chapter 3, he built a statue to himself again. Right? They did the same thing to him. They threw, same dude that said Daniel was righteous, threw him in the pit for the lions to be able to get him. They did the same thing to Daniel, right? We can keep on going. Did the same thing to Abraham. Lot. Abraham is the reason that you got what you got. No, I got to be on my side. I'm done with you, dog. He then rescues you. I'm still done with you, dog. I'm going to go ahead and go my way. Then prays for you to make sure that you and your family are saved, minus your wife who looked back. Right? And then prays for you to be able to not be messed up when Sodom and Gomorrah get messed up. Right? They did the same thing. He's trying to tell you, man, you're not special in that regard. So that being said, though, oh, okay, I don't know, okay. So I want you to get that in your spirit. They did the same thing. He said all this stuff. He said, look, man, I know they said you're too poor in spirit. I know that they said that you're too humble, you're too low, you don't make enough. I know that they said that you cry too much, you know, and you shouldn't be heard about your crying. You're playing the victim role, all these things. I know they said these things about you, but he said, look, when they say these things about you, get excited. Realize that great is your reward in heaven. And he said, understand they did the same thing to the people that came before you. Right? When somebody says to you, oh, here you are talking about black people again, how dare you, oh, you've just focused on that or whatever. They said the same thing about Malcolm, they said the same thing about Martin. When James Brown came out with Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud, it wasn't just white people that didn't like that, it was black people too. Right? When somebody says, go out and get a job, why aren't you working a 9 to 5? They get mad at you for a 9 to 5 just like they got mad at other people before them. But then they want to quote people that didn't have 9 to 5s. Did Yashua have a 9 to 5? Did Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Peter, Judas, James, Andrew, etc., did they have 9 to 5s? Did Paul have a 9 to 5? Actually, Paul kind of sort of did. I can't hold you on that one. Paul kind of sort of did at one point, but he only used it at certain places. Point. Did Moses have a 9 to 5, or was he in his work? Did Aaron have a 9 to 5, or was he in his work? Matter of fact, if you know about the Levites in culture, Levites were not supposed to have work in the field. They were supposed to do nothing but work for the community. Because how are you going to be righteous and do well for your community if you got, well, I would do well for you. I would show up at the hospital, but you know, I got to work a 16-hour shift today. I would feed you guys, you know, but I can't really farm right now because, you know, I got to make sure I got to show up to work. That's the reality that people go by. But anyways, somebody's about to start working on the yard, so you're going to hear a lot of noise. So I'm just simply going to put some information up for you guys to be able to catch up with us. We have classes going on. If you want to know about the classes, marriage, monarchy, sovereignty. And for those who try to do sovereignty, monarchy last night, I'm sorry, everything was down. But marriage, monarchy, sovereignty, natural medicine 1. See, told you. Natural medicine 1. Fibroid cyst, Hebrew characters. If you want to be part of the early morning Bible study that's about to start, early rising Bible study that's supposed to start happening every Monday, that's going to start on October 18th, so this Monday coming up. If you'd like to be able to participate in many different things that are going on with the community, the land project, all these different things, if you want, you can just go ahead and look up what's on your screen right now, or coming up on your screen right now. That's going to be above my head shortly. For those of you that are interested, oh wow, I can't see what I was looking for. Hold up. I hope I didn't delete it. I might have messed up. Oh, here we go. I thought I deleted it for a second. So if you want to text us at this number, 410-714-5078, you can do that. For those that are listening on YouTube, thank you for being on. We appreciate you. We'll be with you later on.